You spent countless hours in the garage with your dad. Now investing in that old car and working on it with your son reminds you of him. And his legacy lives on. Fund your passion with a low-interest home equity line of credit from Bank of Blue Valley.
Oh my goodness, is that Nick? Hi.
How are you doing?
I am wonderful. How are you?
Doing good. Doing good. How's the week going? Is it a little overwhelming with all this action going on?
Well, I don't know what you mean by action, but there is a lot going on. I feel like now that it's nice outside, people are ready. They're ready to work. They're ready for happy hours. They're ready for breakfasts. How about you?
Exactly. No, I agree. The economy is rolling in some functions. And what I mean by action is what you just described. We're now trying to realize when we don't have that 2-second commute from meeting to meeting, everything that's kind of getting jam-packed in the day. And also people don't move to Kansas City for the beachfront property. We move here for our children and our families. And so their activities are rocketing up as well. So I can only imagine the new level that everyone's at, but hopefully we're all taking it up a level.
We're all taking it up a level. I do want to talk about that article I sent you today. So I sent Scott, this is the first time this has ever happened. I sent Scott something ahead of the show. I said, let's talk about this on the show today.
Bank of Blue Valley, earmuffs. We prep big time for this show.
It's big time. A lot of prep work. First of all, tell us hi. And then this next thing we're going to talk about, I want to hear your feedback on. So very early on this morning, the Business Journal put out a story. Sean Culkin, am I saying that
right? Yes.
He is a football player who has taken part of his salary to play for the Chiefs in Bitcoin.
Absolutely. Well, it's got a high upside. I don't know what the taxes are on it, but I think what we want our audience to portray is would you take part of your salary if you were getting offered a COO position or a new director or a new vice president role? Would you take part of it in Bitcoin is the question.
I have studied Bitcoin quite a bit, a couple of years ago, more than anything. And then I kind of felt like for a minute we were talking about it, and then it kind of started to fade. And now I feel like during COVID and during just everything with the economy, it's really starting to make a comeback. And I'm like obsessed that this man took part of his salary with Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to, the United States dollar is kind of the central spot and the stronghold of what people value their currencies on. But China is doing, getting more and more into a government-wide cryptocurrency. So I don't know a ton about it other than just like any stock, you want to buy low and sell high. And people feel that they like anything, they can get in early on it. And I don't see a reason why you wouldn't if you study it and you know about it. We just asked Bank of Blue Valley for our expert advice.
That is such a good segue. That was not in our email earlier. We do. I wonder very, very much what the banks think of Bitcoin for sure too, right? But Bank of Blue Valley, I do want to remind everybody, they've got that incredible home equity loan right now going on. We worked with the Lori over there and we're getting a pool. So I'm really excited. But they've got some pretty incredible deals. So thank you to Bank of Blue Valley. And you know who's coming on the show today from there?
No.
She's here. I promise
CEO she's here. Wendy Reynolds.
She will be here in just a little bit. But first, let's get our panel on. They're looking forward to seeing her too.
I'm ready. We need to get our partner Shauna and Felicia to do some more Wendy Reynolds type questions, but questions from themselves or other folks, especially on the commercial banking side, which we have a video shoot coming up.
Yeah, how about this? Hey, if you are in the comments, let us know a great question you would like Wendy to ask on this show, and I'll work it into the video shoot. I'm really excited about our video shoot, for sure. I'm trying to think of a good song that I could play.
Well, just so everyone knows, Aaron has such a large Facebook audience that this page streams to. We got in trouble for certain music. So finding music that doesn't have words is actually a lot harder than you think. So I'll challenge some of our panelists if they ever have to play some music without words. But are you ready?
Well, I want to show something. We've got a lot of comments over here. We just can't see who they are if your privacy settings are on. So all of these, it looks like Tony and Cindy are here, but I don't know Tony and Cindy who. So always make sure on LinkedIn, your privacy settings are off because that is how we network. This is going to be the worst music of all time. Are you ready? I don't even know what I'm going to play. It's just instrumental. And we're getting ready. So if this is worse than some of your choices, I'm sorry.
I'm pretty bad. But we have ladies first. Ooh.
Oh, it's very
all
slow.
right. Number 1, Jenna Scott.
Hello, how are you guys?
Doing good. Number 2, coming up, Chris Barnett.
This music's terrible.
Hello, everybody. I hate your music.
Me too.
And then last but not least, we have Phillip Kelley.
Man,
Should
I
I
feel
fade
like
it? Fade it out.
I'm loosening up over here. Getting ready.
Like high tea.
That was terrible. I said uplifting instrumental music. That was not, I think it was the wrong type of uplifting.
That was something else. That was something else.
Well, you are welcome. You are welcome. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much. We have another guest that's going to jump on in just a little bit, but I'm so excited to have you all here. So Jenna, we're going to start with you. Who are you? What do you do? And how do you get to Kansas City?
Well, like she said, my name is Jenna, and I am the Director of Professional Education at Park University. So as far as Kansas City goes, I have been here my whole life, born and raised. I actually went to Winnetonka High School, so I'm a Northlander, but actually have another parent. My dad lives over in Overland Park, so I got kind of the both sides of the city and spent a lot of my high school years driving through downtown and looking at it as a place that I wanted to explore more, which is exciting because downtown is just such a fun place now to be. But I went to college at Missouri State and then came back and found Park and just fell in love with it. I spent a short amount of time at the Kansas City Chiefs, got to work in the sports and entertainment world, doing alumni relations and community engagement, which was amazing. I got to do a couple like Make-A-Wish dreams and, help the players interact with the community, which was just fantastic. So that is how I got to Kansas City. And so far it's done me well for the last 29 years.
Jenna, quick question. This is probably the most important question we've ever asked on this show. But when you go north of the river, is there a special handshake that people do to let them know that they're also from north of the river? And then secondly, you do a wonderful and phenomenal job of connecting others. You're always so giving. You're always wanting to help people. I would love to learn, and the audience to learn, where that comes from, because you do it at such a high level. It doesn't just happen naturally. There's got to be something, whether it was an experience you had or something that's always been in you. So if you can answer, is there a secret handshake? And then where does your desire to connect others come from?
So if it was a secret handshake, I couldn't tell you, could I? It wouldn't be a secret anymore. So, we'll leave that to wander. And as far as the connection part goes, I love people. I am one of 4 girls, but my 2 older sisters are 10 years older than me. And my middle oldest sister is actually a teacher. She happened to graduate from Park. But she's always taught me that everybody has a story and everyone has something to teach you and learn from. And so over the years, I've just really learned to listen to people. I was a bartender while I was in college too. So, bartenders learn a lot about people, and for some reason people will just pour their hearts out. But I love getting to know people and learning where they've come from, how they've got where they're at, and all the things that they have to offer. So I just really love helping if I can. It's just always been a part of me. And as far as on LinkedIn and stuff, it's so easy now to help other people, whether that be somebody who's younger or older than you or who's looking for a job. If you can connect them to something that gives them an opportunity, why not? Because there's more than enough to go around, and the more we help each other, the more we all succeed. So
I think that they pour their heart out to you because they have a few shots. I was bartender too.
That is true. That is true.
Just a theory. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Chris, who are you? What are you doing? How do you get here?
So I'm Chris Barnett, and I'm the founder and principal of Barnett Strategies. And we are a marketing and sales consultancy, and we work with startup companies in the tech world to help them grow their business and accelerate and build teams and add revenue. So how I got to Kansas City. So I was living in downtown Chicago with my wife and really little kids. And I was working at the time for a great company back then called Handmark that was in River Market. And we were growing. And they said, Chris, you got to move to Kansas City because you got people in cubicles here and you're working out of your basement in Chicago. So my wife agreed to move here for 2 years. And that was in 2006. And so 15 years later, we're still here. We got our kids into St. Paul's and they both loved it. And we met a ton of people that we really liked. And so we just thought it was a great place and just never left. And I'm sure we'll stay. And so at Barnett Strategies, what we focus on is we typically work with tech companies, technical founders, PhDs, engineers who really want to understand marketing and sales, enterprise sales, and how to grow their business, how to add customers, how to get to the next level of fundraising. So that's our focus.
So obviously a lot of people are slowly realizing, or maybe they've realized for a decade, that sales and marketing kind of go hand in hand. So how do you start a company that is getting capitalized? They have a great product or service. I know there's 100 steps in between, but what are typically the first things that you start out working with them on to address how they get their product and service that's great out to the outside world? How do you help them connect that?
Yeah, so we start with a survey process where we have a checklist of 36 topics from marketing and sales that are the things that I used to always focus on when I did that as a full-time job. And we do a survey process to assess what are their strengths and what are their importance, what's important to them. And then, of course, we identify things they're not good at that are really important. Because generally for companies in that state, they're trying to do too many things. They don't know what things to do. So we identify those gaps. Out of 36 topics, there's usually 3 or 4 things that really need focus. And then we help them with execution on those gaps.
Well, thank you so much for coming. I was always on the sales side and I always used social media to help me propel my sales. And so I love that this conversation is finally happening for sure. Phillip, who are you? What do you do? And how do you get here?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys for having me on, by the way. You guys are light. I love your energy and just what you do to the Kansas City community. I've heard great things about you, and it's an honor. So, yeah, Phillip Kelley, I would say the best thing about me, I'm a girl dad. I have 2 daughters, Caroline and Maddie, 14 and 12. They have me right around their little finger, and they know it. But yeah, so born and raised in Spring Hill, Kansas. It's just south of Olathe, population 2,500, counting pregnant women twice back in the day. We got a Sonic now, which is awesome. Good stuff. But yeah, born and raised there. Went to school in Virginia on a baseball scholarship. I was actually working out with the Kansas City Royals as a high school kid, but I wasn't nearly good enough to make it. But
you got that sign.
I have the sign, and I work with NFL teams, but I like baseball a whole lot better. So don't tell them that. And so I've been actually in the ministry since I was a 19-year-old senior pastor. So I knew nothing about anything. I honestly thought they needed a youth pastor. I lied in my interview, told them that I was like 27. I was 19. And that's awesome how you get your first pastoral job, to lie in the interview. I didn't lie. I just didn't tell them how young I was. But anyway, it worked out. And came back to Kansas City in 2011 and started working at a church here in the Overland Park area. And then started working with the Kansas City Chiefs and came on as their team chaplain. So I was there for, and we may have crossed paths probably from 2013 to 17, 18-ish. And now a buddy of mine is the full-time team chaplain now. And I work with several NFL teams currently, about 10 to 15. And I help kind of coach team chaplains. And backstory, I did everything in my power to get fired, ended up getting a promotion, which that is like a fun part of my story, because it's, you lead with your strengths and you build a wall that doesn't connect. But I've learned that, hey, you know what? I'm just going to lead with weakness and vulnerability and all the other stuff. And hopefully it builds a bridge to connect. So maybe if you find something in my story that resonates, then my job's done. But I launched a coaching company. So it's called Purpose Driven Coaching. And I help individuals, companies, nonprofits, professional athletes, and everybody in between kind of go from where they are to where they know they need to be. And I just kind of come alongside with a lot of good coaching questions and help them discover the uniqueness that they know that's inside of them. But I just kind of, help them discover it. So I love what I do.
Phillip, I love the part of your story where you try to get fired and you get promoted. And not to use the pun, not like you're trying to play hardball, but it's like, they're like, wow, he's really negotiating hard, and you're just trying to get yourself out of a job. From your standpoint, the question I have is where does your empathy come from? I feel like people in your shoes always bring a great level of expertise to the business world because they can teach empathy at such a high level. So where does that come from? Obviously, it's got to be a strength of yours and what you do, but what's the core? Where does that come from for you to help and try to help serve others?
That's a great question, Scott. Actually, it's funny because I have a ton of self-doubt even in the business sector because I've been in the nonprofit for 20 years. And so even like your question of, well, wow, you carry a lot of opportunity into the bit. The first head trash was, well, no, I don't, So that's just honest, Abe, real time. That's the head stuff that I had. But, I realize that everybody's going through something. Everything makes sense in context. And when you understand the heart behind the person and the why behind how they're wired or how they operate, it gives you a better understanding of them as a person. It's like we judge ourselves by our intentions, but we judge everybody else by their actions. So if we do the exact same thing that they do, like, well, come on, I didn't mean to do that. And yet if somebody else does like, how could you? Like, come on, and it's just giving yourself the compassion that you would hope to give somebody else and then reciprocating that, hopefully, as a lifestyle. So I'm not the best at it, but I know that but by grace, right? So that's kind of where I'm at.
We have some comments here. A lot of people like your girl's dad.
Yeah.
A lot of girls' dads out there.
Yes.
And fun fact, I dated a Spring Hill baseball player in high school. Don't ask me who, because I'm old and I was sitting here this whole time trying to remember his name. So maybe we can meet for a drink with the yearbook and I can tell you who. Ooh. But I do know that it didn't work out, obviously.
What year?
I graduated high school in 98, so it would have been a couple of years before that.
Okay.
Yeah, bring your yearbook.
I graduated in 2000, so I know who you dated.
Oh, well, amazing.
Aaron, okay. To give context, where are you from?
I grew up in Gardner, and the cute boys were on the Spring Hill baseball team. That's why. So there you go. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming. I can't wait to see your yearbook. I would hope I'm saying your name right. And if I'm not, tell us how to say your name correctly. Kirsten? Okay, we didn't have a chance to check that because you were in a board meeting. So tell us who you are, what you do, how'd you get here, and what you were doing right before this.
Very good. So my name's Kirsten Brown-Persley. I'm the founding principal of Crossroads Preparatory Academy. So we're right downtown. And right before this, I was in a board meeting, so I was trying to hurry up and kind of wrap up my piece to join everyone. So it's kind of a crazy journey. So we have our first group of seniors graduating. And so to have seniors for the first time in the middle of a pandemic has been very interesting, but we're so proud of our students and just really excited to be here and just kind of share a little bit about me and some insight that I have to share with everyone.
Well, keep sharing about yourself, Kirsten. We want to know your background story of how you got to Kansas City. And then the second part of that question is how are you getting to your first seniors graduating? To tell us that story.
Yeah. So I grew up in the Kansas City area in Lee Summit. And my big dream when I left high school was I'm going to leave Kansas City. I'm going to go to LA or New York. I don't know what I'm going to do, but that was my goal. And I left, went to LA for a little bit to a fashion school, and immediately realized I really don't love this. I'm not really living in my passion. And so I remember my senior year, right before I graduated, my dad showed me the Kansas City Star, and there was an article about this program at UMKC called the Institute for Urban Education. And he's like, I really think this is a great fit for you. I really think that, this is really what you talk about doing, and you talk about change and agency in our world. And I really believe that you'd enjoy this. I said, there's no way I want to be a teacher. I don't want to go into education. I'm moving to LA. So I moved, and then I just felt like really called and pulled back to Kansas City to join that program. And I moved back, got into the program, and kind of the rest is history. I was able to do little internships in high-performing classrooms across Kansas City, and it really helped me see and understand what it took to be an impactful educator. And I think it's really special, too, to have those experiences within the community that you eventually work. And so after I graduated, I taught for about 5 years and got a job at Crossroads at the elementary school. And they decided they were going to open up a high school. There was huge demand for a high school at the time. The school system was kind of blowing up with what was happening in the downtown community with so many families moving in. And I applied and had this vision for what could be possible, where, one thing I love about our school community is we're right downtown. And so we have this amazing symbiotic relationship with different businesses and nonprofits and organizations where our students, even in kindergarten, are doing lemonade stands and learning about entrepreneurship in these authentic experiences from age 5. And I was so excited about the possibility of expanding that to the secondary level for high school students, and was able to really dream big about what education could be. And had my students traveling all over the country for different projects. And so when we were able to make that happen for the high school, it just was the opportunity I couldn't pass. And now we have our first group of seniors graduating, and some of them have gone to the UN to talk about social justice issues, and really are leveraging all the different mentorship opportunities and just the love and warmth of the Kansas City community to help pour into our scholars. They're getting into their dream colleges and have these amazing scholarships. And I think it really comes from just being in a community where they're able to dream big and get into the real world as much as possible.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us. You've got some people over here giving you shout outs. However, they've got some privacy settings, so I don't know who they are. So this is what happens when you're on total lockdown. And this is what happens when your picture's on lockdown, but they love the Crossroads. So definitely some people over here, you'll have to go check it out after the show. Scott, we've got so many people watching today. I want to give some people some shout outs. Whitney's watching. She says hello. Randy loves judging ourselves by our intentions and everybody else by their actions. Awesome. He loves that. And then we've got Katie Irvin, which I think, Jenna, you and Katie must work together. And then Andre. So, and John says, great lineup today. So keep commenting over here saying what? Nobody told us if they would take their salary in Bitcoin or not. So I'm still waiting for some of those comments. And then let us know who you're here to watch and some of your favorite quotes. We get some amazing quotes out of this show. So, all right, we're going to shift gears a little bit. We want to talk about the positives. We know this past year's kind of sucked all around, but what is something positive? What is a win you've had this past year, Jenna?
So one thing for Park that's been really great is actually my team has been created. We are now called the Strategic Alliances team. I started last June. It was just me and Katie and I were just the two of us trying to figure out what we're going to do to kind of shake up partnerships for higher education. Obviously higher ed with the pandemic and everything kind of took a hit, and it was rough for pretty much all education because everybody wasn't ready to go to school when the pandemic hit. So trying to figure out what we're going to do. But now we have 4 people on our team, and then Katie. So we just are so excited to be able to be together. We have career services. We have a partnership person who does access to education, which is a partnership for tuition discounts. And then we have myself doing professional education, workforce development, and Katie is helping us. So we are so excited to have our team together, and we all finally got back in our offices, obviously. So it's nice that we get to sometimes come in the hallway and actually have like powwows, even though we're all still masked up and things, but we get to have that time together, which we all missed a whole lot. So it's been great to have the team and be able to regroup together and kind of recreate that relationships and focus on people again instead of just being all by ourselves.
I love it. Chris, what is a win that you've had?
Yeah, so before the pandemic, enterprise sales seemed like perversely it was about how much pain can I inflict on myself? How many miles can I fly? How many days can I be away from home? Because I'm in sales. I got to go fly all over the place. And then all of a sudden we realized, wait, we can do almost everything we used to do here on Zoom. And so for our clients, we've just had really, I would say, greater success, more amazing success, doing everything virtually online than we did before. Like my good friends, Chris Cheatham and Jeremy Smith from Risk Genius, right? Had a fantastic exit, sold the company to Bold Penguin, and then had a double down, like a blackjack, I think of that, where then Bold Penguin was able to sell their company to American Family. So that's a huge return for the investors and great for all the employees. And so, there's several other clients that we work with here in Kansas City, like Pivot Software and Triple Blind and Smart Warehousing down in Gardner. And we've just had, really amazing results just doing everything digitally. And personally, I like it because I don't have to travel so much, but whether it's nice for me or not, it's great results for clients. And that's been really exciting last year.
Yeah, that's amazing. You just listed off some awesome Kansas City businesses that are rocket ships, and one that may be one of the biggest exits we may ever have if they ever do decide to make a transition. How are you able to find all these great opportunities? I'm assuming it's through referrals, through people that have worked with you before. Am I wrong?
Yeah, that's it's either referrals or it's just people that I flat out know. At every one of those companies, I knew the folks before, we started working together. So yeah.
Yeah, it goes to show you invest in your network at a young age. The next thing you know, people that when Aaron and Jenna and I are joking about bartending, which we all serve tables, and then people go on to these 50, 60, $100 million exits. You're like, hey, I didn't know you were an adult. How'd you end up doing that?
Well,
and so it's just so cool to see.
Well, it's funny because among startups, the exit is like this unicorn, this nirvana, this holy grail that seems unattainable. And I'm fortunate that I had a couple good ones. And so what I think I do for founders, I kind of demystify it, right? It's not this magical thing where you need a magic wand. There's actually a step-by-step process to give yourself a chance to get there.
Love it. Well, yeah, it sounds like you've had a pretty good year with that. I didn't know that, Chris. I knew they sold to Bold Penguin, but I didn't know that next to American Century. That's pretty awesome. He was on the show early on.
American Family Insurance. That's right.
American Family Insurance. He was on one of our first episodes, right, Scott?
Yeah. So basically, for our audience members, they basically say you sold a company and you got $100 a share, and then out of nowhere, their $100 a share turned into like $150 a share. So they basically worked, their whole life to get it to an exit, and then it almost doubles overnight. So it's one of those things where, sometimes everyone always says it's better to be lucky than good. Sometimes, you create your own luck, but, when you create your own luck and you're in the right place at the right time and you help others, you're fortunate to have that double exit.
That happened to one of my friends that worked at Zoom. He did all right this year too. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that is awesome. I do want to, right here, when we're talking about past episodes, we actually, in the page just yesterday, posted we now have a YouTube channel. So if you want to go see any of our past episodes, it's posted right here on the LinkedIn page. We'll post it to the Facebook page as well. And you can find Chris's episode and all our past episodes, all our 50 50 some odd episodes to go back and look at those. So, all right, Phillip, what's been something awesome that happened to you?
It's great because this year's been awesome and terrifying and all of the above, right? But, I'm in the people business. I help, like, somebody called me one time and I've used it and I've plagiarized it, but the human potential extractor. Like, I love digging in, finding out their potential, discovering their gold, reflecting it back. I mean, it's a blast. And a lot of times when I work with somebody brand new or work with a company, it's like the pain funnel. Like, okay, what are your pressure points, your pain points? And then it just takes a while for people to just get real. It's like the thing that they initially wanted to meet with or wanted like a year-long coaching, or, I do a thing called Life Plan where I'll meet with somebody for 3 to 4 days, 10 hours a day, straight through. And we're just crushing, looking at their life. I know everything about them that they didn't want anybody else to know. So it's a blast, but the thing that I've loved is that this has allowed everybody to just kind of give permission to be human, give permission to not have everything together, but give permission to be able to vocalize some of the hurts and the habits and the hangups that they're going through. It gives them an opportunity to give their struggle a voice instead of hiding behind a plastic, oh yeah, everything's great, kid's good, company's good, I'm good, health's good. And then it just, this like global pause has been a great opportunity for somebody like me to enter into somebody else's life at just that right intersection. And so I don't have to spend 2 or 3 or 4 sessions or 2 or 3 or 4 months getting to the root, because people are just so much more like, hey, this is what's going on in my life. I'm scared. I'm terrified. I don't know what's going to happen. Help me. And so, man, being able to have that runway, I get to see so much more advances in people's lives and in companies' lives. I work with several companies here in the Kansas City area, Sam's Club, Our Best Bank, a company called Spaces that I've been working with here recently. It's an interior design.
Furniture.
Yeah. And they're having me come in to the entire organization and help kind of take them from where they've been over the last 30 years to, and it's a blast, because meeting people like that saying, wait a second, we're in the office furniture environment business, and yet everybody's wanting to work from home. So going from terrified to, wait a second, no, this is an opportunity. And so flipping it on its head and saying, no, the things that we thought were limitations and liabilities can actually be our assets and a possibility. And when the light bulb goes off with somebody that I'm working with and they finally see it, I just feel like I get paid to do this. Like, this is the coolest thing ever. So, so it's a blast. And, working with professional athletes as well, going through a lot of fear because they don't know if their seasons are going to get shut off. And then if they do lose their role on a team or position or a coach, who am I? Like, is my identity in what I do or in the person that I am?
On your 10-hour days, what's the longest it's taken you to really get somebody to break down? I feel like my therapist has a challenge with this with me. That's why I want to understand.
I lead with my story first. And I went to an alcohol treatment center in 2017. My dad was the town drunk in Spring Hill. I preached his funeral when I was 20. He took his life. And I swore I would never be like him. And then I found there was a year where super stressful and I was hiding it. Didn't tell anybody, went to a treatment center, changed my life. And I lead with that story because I try to just tell people like, hey, this is where I'm at. Okay, so it took about 30 hours. So on the third day, 29th hour, there was a guy who finally just cracked. And when it did, the next day, the next 10-hour day, we made more done by noon on that last day than we did in the first 3 days combined. Wow. Yeah, it's a blast. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your story. It's, Scott and I are in a really lucky position where a lot of times when people share their stories, we get the emails later of who needed to hear that. So I can almost guarantee we'll get an email of who needed to hear that. So I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Kirsten, I'm saying it right now, correct?
Yes.
What is a win you've had?
Yeah. So I just think about my field specifically in education, there's been a mass exodus of teachers mid-year. It's been really, really stressful for everyone.
Whoa, time out. You explain that. So how many kids are at your school?
Yeah. So
is that a thing going on nationwide? I mean,
it's
I
a national trend. Yeah. So we have about 400 students at our school. We're building till we reach capacity. We'll be at about 600 at that point, but now we're at 400. And that's just seeing so many of my friends who work in schools or administrators across the city and across the nation really just express like this panic of what are we going to do? Because not only are you losing teachers during this really critical time, but the workforce in terms of the pool is so small. And, that's always the case, especially when you think about like urban education context. It's really hard to find qualified teachers who want to work in the urban core sometimes. And so, what we found is we have to make sure that we're being hyper intentional about taking care of our team, our staff, because we really believe teachers are heroes. Like, of course, we have like so many frontline workers during this time who have really stepped out. And I think, teachers are definitely, part of that core group. And, there's just so much that they've had to do from learning this new way of being and operating in terms of teaching instructions. Another national trend, students just not engaging in learning. So we've had teachers driving around the city trying to find students, making sure that they're okay and that they're getting re-engaged. And so, some of my friends who I went to college with who are very, very much about this work and are very committed, made announcements like, hey, this is my last day. I'm quitting mid-year. It's too much to handle. And so it just leaves schools like, oh my gosh, what do we do? How do we even address this? Even the sub pool of substitute teachers is quite low at this time. So just been a huge glow despite that is been really fortunate with that intentionality of making sure our staff is supported. And it's taken a lot of ingenuity and thinking outside the box. We have always had a system of feedback where we really just want folks to be very transparent with us about how they're feeling, where they're at. So not only do we seek out that feedback, but we also encourage it and make sure that folks know it's safe to be able to share where you really are. And I think it was mentioned previously, this note about, everyone really during this pandemic really struggled to some extent. And so it forced folks to be vulnerable in ways in which they may never have had to be before. And that's what we saw from our team is to everyone had that the space to be vulnerable, even though we were virtual, and to be really transparent about how we were feeling, not only as professionals, but as people. And that's allowed us to reconfigure our structures to really ensure that we're being responsive to the needs of our teachers. Because what we know to be true is if our teachers aren't taken care of, our students won't be taken care of. And so it really is, they're directly correlated and linked. And so, that's just a huge one. We have all our teachers are super committed throughout this entire year, despite the difficulties we've had to navigate together as a team. And when we take our staff survey, overwhelmingly amount of teachers, like to the 95%, I think we hit the 95 percentile of our teachers saying that they feel cared about, they feel sustained in this work, even though it's been very challenging. And that's kind of unprecedented. And we're just really proud of our team rallying together to really make sure our kids and each other gets what we need during this time.
How many teachers do you have that work with you as well?
Yeah, so we have about 45 teachers on our team.
And then a back office?
So yeah, we have about 3 administrators. So I lead 3 administrators, and we have 2 counselors, and we have a lot of like para supports as well to help support the work that our teachers.
So let's call it 475 people rely on you on a daily basis. How? I mean, that to me is just so overwhelming. And how do you take time for yourself? And thank you for being so selfish and taking care of those 475 people so that 400 children are getting a great education. But how do you focus on, like, do you just prep a lot? Do you stay really organized? What are some secret tips for success that you could give our audience to be able to handle that volume of people? Because I can only imagine the amount of emails and texts and calls you get on a daily basis. You can never keep up. It's got to be overwhelming.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. I think just kind of speaking back to our team, it's been really great to know that we have folks who are deeply committed to this work. And so I can delegate and I can trust that it's going to be done. And if someone, back to what I said about transparency, if someone's like, I can't do it right now, I'm really overwhelmed, or I have, a lot of tasks already on my plate. With that honesty, we can move forward to find who is able to do it. And I think like cultivating a culture where everyone's willing to step up, because we deeply believe in something greater than ourselves and this collective vision that we have. It's really beautiful being in this space because we see the fruit of our labor, so to speak, every day, and the connections we have with students or parents. So even on like a really difficult day, I'll get a message from a student just saying how much they miss us and how much they want to come back. And, the impact that I had 2 years ago that I don't even remember that micro moment, that sustains me, but also setting clear boundaries and having systems to support those boundaries, such as delegation, and also having clarity of like what is urgent and what is not as pressing, has really helped. And I will say, I love Kansas City. Our community is so strong and they're so dedicated to our students and our kids because they really understand this idea that they're going to be the leaders of our community, and many of our students are already stepping into that role. And so we have a lot of community members and partners who will say, what can we do? How can we lighten the burden, the load? And without that support, burnout would be, a daily reality.
That you just hit that one out of the park.
Definitely
hit that a great answer.
That was a great answer. I have a theory. I'm pulling up a video. I have a theory that T-Mobile or Verizon or something, you guys can steal this from me, but I think one of you guys should pick up the cell phone bills from teachers this year, because I have never texted teachers more than this year, and all of my friends are in the same boat. We've never texted our kids' teachers, but with all this virtual and back and forth and everything, our teachers have used their own phones and their own phone bills this year and been texting parents to keep them, really abreast of everything that's going on. So T-Mobile or Verizon, I know you're listening. When do you guys pick up their phone bills this year, right? All right, guess who's here?
What? No.
She's here.
No way.
Kirsten, you weren't here earlier when we prepped everyone on this cheesy little thing we do. Wendy Reynolds from Bank of Blue Valley, the CEO, is here to ask a question, which I find this question so fascinating because everyone I know has a very strong opinion on one side or the other. So we want to hear your opinion and why. And I would love for our audience to chime in too. There's no wrong answers, but there is only 15 minutes left. Okay. All right, Jenna, we'll start with you as soon as Wendy's done.
Do you prefer to be close to your employees or maintain distance? And why?
I am such a relationship person. You have to be close to your team. And, for a lot of the things that we've all kind of communicated here, we all have our own story. We all have our own days. We've all got something going on in our lives that is making us either feel great or feel not so great. And I think if you can't, know who your person is, in your group, you can't really do your job well, because if they can't show up authentically themselves and be 100% who they are, they're not going to be able to give you 100% of the strengths that they have, and you can't help them with their weaknesses if they're not willing to show them to you. So I am on the let's be as close as a team as we can, without being too good.
Chris, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I have a different take on it. I think it's really important to focus in on the individual employees, where their comfort level is, what's important to them, what they want out of their leader, versus I want to feel close. Let me make you come to this thing, make you engage on these things. Some people want to have a completely professional relationship. Other people want to talk to you about their kids and go out to dinner with spouses. And people are just very different. So I like to structure it with opportunities for people to have a more personal relationship, but never an obligation. Like, hey, I've got Royals tickets. Everybody has to come. Bring your spouse. Now all of a sudden, it's an obligation. Maybe they don't want to go to the Royals game. Maybe their spouse doesn't want to go to the Royals game, or whatever. So very close on the work front, but on the personal.
For lunch every time. That's one of the things that we did with Coach Reed. And, anybody remembers in 2012, we were the worst team in the league. And then just something took place in 2013 where Andy Reid came in. And, one of the things that we try to do is establish the culture of not just the team, but the entire organization. And I think that when you develop a culture of transparency and authenticity, you don't have to be buddy-buddy with everybody. You don't have to be best friends with everybody. But creating the culture where the peer pressure is going in the right direction, where at least you have at least a person where you can know, you can be heard, you can be seen, you can be understood, and you just know that, hey, it's a safe space. So I think that everybody in an organization needs to be close with at least one person, but you don't have to be super, super close with everybody. It may cross lines. You may have to set certain boundaries. And, I was doing a team chapel a couple years, before COVID, to the Baltimore Ravens. And I was talking about, are you a Heisman leader? Heisman Trophy, carrying the ball with one arm, stiff arm everybody else. And you keep people at an arm's length always. And I was like, hey, do you guys know of anybody who's a Heisman Trophy? And actually, we had 3 Heisman Trophy winners in that chapel. As I was talking about, I felt like the biggest goober. Like, I should have done my homework. I should have known who I was talking to or whatever. For most of my life, I was that person. I was the Heisman. I was, hey, let's make sure I have everything cool, calm, collected. I'm going to keep people out here. I'm going to help you before you need to help me. And man, I missed out on years of connection. And so I think that companies and leaders have an opportunity to really connect and be seen, heard, and known, and let their employees know that they are seen, heard, and known as well. So that's my take.
Kirsten, how about you?
Yeah, so I think about this leadership quote that always guides me when I think about my relationships with my team. And it's kind of about people don't care how much you know unless they know about how much you care. And so that really resonates in the way that I operate with my team. I think it's really important for me to get to know them individually, because no one person is alike. And so in order to do that, I have to genuinely care about who they are and really be intentional about getting to know them. And one thing that we have, so we created a structure where everyone in our school has a coach and has ongoing coaching and feedback. And at the beginning of our coaching, we always ask, what's your personal vision statement and why? What's your why? This work is so personal. Any work is personal, but I think especially when you're pouring into young people, you have to have a reason to do that every day. And so that guides a lot of our conversations, and it really provides a window into their heart and who they are and what makes them tick. And so it's cultivating that relationship that really allows a team to grow together. And all like my relationships with everyone on the team, it looks different because we're all different, and the way in which we choose to engage based upon our personal preferences are different. But that was really difficult for me. I think growing up, I had some really traumatic experiences where it was really difficult for me to connect with others. I remember my first day of kindergarten. I was so excited. I went to a predominantly white school, and I just remember being at recess and none of the kids would play with me. You know, I feel like everyone has that none of the kids will play with me moment. And I just remember watching on the perimeter all the kids playing, and this first grade boy came up to me and I was like, oh my God, finally I have a friend. Someone's going to be like, talk to me. And he's like, what are you looking at? Blackface? I was like, oh my God, I just cried. I just remember like was crying and just like, oh my God, this is, and, you know, going to this predominantly white space, my parents tried to warn me and equip me. And we watched PBS documentaries about what racism was, just in case I encountered it, so I could have language to name what was happening. But I didn't really comprehend it until that moment. And I just remember being in class and borrowing a pencil from a girl and her touch, like bumping on my hand as we exchanged pencils, and her like wiping her shirt like I was disgusting or something. Mm-hmm. And so those moments throughout my life where I've had so many of those encounters just really shaped me and made me distrusting of others. And so as I stepped into this role, and other experiences in life, I had to learn how to shed those experiences and know that, you know, I can have new experiences than what I had before, and that it's worthwhile to be trusting and to step out and give people a chance. And because of that, just a lot of time taken to retrain my mind that it's okay and it's safe. It's allowed me to be able to have that vulnerability and make those deep connections so that we can dig in our heels as a team to do what's best for kids.
Well, you guys all had really, really great answers. I want to touch on some of these comments over here in general. There's a lot of, they must have changed something with privacy settings on LinkedIn, because there's a lot of people with their privacy settings on. I've never seen this many. But Lindsay said it's all about building relationships. It helps build trust. So to your part, Kirsten. Mission is on the wall, culture's down the hall. He loves that. And no one cares how much you know unless they know how much you care. And then Joel's going to cover you guys up. Hold on. Joel says, it's tough to have a close personal relationship with everyone in the organization when you get enough people. When I became that outnumbered, I changed my personal focus from everyone to first line supervisors up. Did I still care and engage everyone? Absolutely. But when I see 50 plus people, I just couldn't track everything anymore. I remember the names and names of spouses, but I didn't track what they were doing on the weekend. I still love them though. And that's a great point. I guess then you have to equip your team that you pour into to pour into them. Do you have any feedback on that, Scott?
No, I'm still thinking about what Kirsten said. And so until I was 33 years old, and I heard a podcast with one of my childhood friends and Joel Goldberg. And I was just mowing the yard, listening to podcasts, and he mentioned a lot of the pain he felt growing up. And I think that, you know, in suburbia, I'm speaking about myself, so I'm not trying to talk about anyone else other than me. I think myself and people I was around told ourselves a myth that, you know, racism was less in the suburbs than it was in other parts of the country. And in fact, maybe it was worse in the suburbs. And we always try to tell ourselves that wasn't something we did. So I'm just talking about my personal experience. And, you know, I'm 34. So, you know, to feel that heavy as a father and a spouse was crazy to hear it at that age. I wish I would have known it when I was in middle school and high school or in elementary school, so that I could have been, I don't know, but I just feel that it was kind of crazy. I still haven't processed all of it, but I appreciate you sharing. I appreciate everyone sharing. But Aaron, if we're, you know, it's a heavy show. We go light, we go up, we go down. We're heart heavy. What
you're like that? You're like that song.
Are we ready? Are we ready for the icebreaker?
All right, listen. It's about to be icebreaker time. Real quick, though, Christine says, thank you, Phillip, for sharing your story. And Jenna's one of Andre. Look how much Andre Davis loves Jenna. He said Jenna's one of his favorites. Jenna's one of his favorite people. Like, he really likes her. And then she was talking about working with Katie earlier, and Katie's on here as well. So I just want to make sure we said hello to everybody. I told him we try to show as many comments as possible. If I'm not showing your comment, it's just because I cannot figure out who you are. So Scott, so check your privacy settings. And Scott, it's your favorite part of the show. Everybody's got to have a 60-second answer so we can get through it, 60 seconds or less. Scott, run with your icebreaker question.
Real quick, Jenna, you did a presentation with Andre. Where do people find your presentation?
With me, actually. So I did a presentation with Andre and his team at Built for LinkedIn and how to use it. Just some tips and tricks that I picked up over the last few years of being in it and having some side jobs that involve social media. And so I ran a whole program for them of just how to really use LinkedIn on building connections and building trust within people that you meet virtually.
I was talking about a different one. You did a presentation on various topics with different leaders.
Oh, various topics with different leaders. I'm trying to think of which one that was.
Didn't you guys speak on culture and race and society?
Oh, yeah. Well, Andre has been doing some amazing pieces of work with Joel Goldberg and his team has a whole board that's been doing things. And one of the big initiatives that I'm working on, being Director of Professional Education Workforce Development, is just trying to incorporate more diversity and inclusion and, equity and kind of going through that. And so I paired up with Andre and his team of them that just have been blowing it out of the water with how well they've been doing with that presentation. So if you haven't got a chance to tune into that, go check out Andre's LinkedIn and go to Joel Goldberg's podcast, because they've been killing it with some great content.
Two insanely amazing leaders, but I don't want to know their answer to this question. I want to know yours. If we were to go back to high school and we were to talk about your favorite lunchroom item, what would it be? School lunch, your favorite thing, and you got 30 seconds now.
Hot ham and cheese roll-ups. And that's not from high school. That's from like when we were like little kids, like elementary school. And they were like the hot ham and cheese roll-ups that are like wheat bread. I don't know why, but those always stick with me.
Chris, what if you go back to high school, what's the cafeteria food you're wanting?
The only thing I can remember about high school cafeteria is that in my freshman year, this kid lit my brown bag lunch on fire that had a turkey sandwich. And I couldn't eat the turkey sandwich. Like, I'm looking over here and I look over and everyone's laughing because my lunch bag is on fire. And I couldn't eat my turkey sandwich. But there was a good ending because he got expelled. So it turned out okay.
Yeah. I don't know what he has against turkey sandwiches. Phillip, lunchroom cafeteria item you wish you could go back to?
The square pizza day was the best. I mean, when you can get that coupled with the ranch dressing that I convinced the entire Spring Hill Elementary School to get more ranch dressing on square pizza day, because, hey, you know what? If you want to have influence, you gotta start with square pizza day. Shout it from the rooftops. That's it.
Kirsten, if you want to talk about your school or you want to go back to high school, what would be your thing that you love?
Yeah, so I'm a sucker for school lunches. I take them all the time. Whenever we have extras, I love the mac and cheese at school. So good. I don't know what it is. I always have to have it. The kids make fun of me. They don't like the school lunches, but I think they don't know what they're missing. They're delicious.
Aaron, what's school lunch for you?
The square pizza. I was in the Frontier League as well. We must have some baller square pizza, I guess.
Man, what? I'm convinced Gardner and Spring Hill, they source their square pizza from the same place. That's what I'm thinking.
The best. I worked at Gambino's Pizza when I was 13 years old. Yeah, I made extra money by selling my sister's phone number to boys. Ooh, true story.
Scott, what about you?
You always had the A lunch, so whatever A lunch was, but maybe it was like mashed potatoes, what we thought was chicken fingers. So that would be mine. But we're ending on an hour here, Aaron. So we'll let you take it away.
All right. Well, I wanted to thank all of our guests for coming on today. We really, really appreciate it. What a fabulous lineup! Someone said that earlier. What a fabulous lineup! We want to thank everyone that's watching. We truly appreciate it, and thanks to Bank of Blue Valley for allowing us to do this. We will see you next week. Same time, same place. Thank you. Have a great week.
Thanks, everybody.